Man, I freaking love the Steam Deck. It's so comfortable and easy and fun, and also it's nice to rub. Rub.
You summoned me?
Oh my gosh, who are you?
I'm a genie or something. A Steam Deck genie. And I'm here to grant you one wish.
Oh, isn't it supposed to be 3?
No, it's not supposed to be 3, damn it. 1. You get 1 wish, you greedy son of a bitch.
Okay, no problem. Well, I know what I want for my wish.
Okay, what? What do you want? What's your wish?
I wish for my favorite toy, the Steam Deck, to be even better.
Easy enough. Your wish is my command. Poof!
Oh my god. This is so amazing! Hello, hi there, I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. In case you've been living under a rock, there's a new OLED Steam Deck that was just released. And if you've been living under a rock, you're probably a worm, or a millipede, or a slug, or some other invertebrate, and that's pretty freaking cool. I wish I was a worm, all squishy and wiggly, living under a rock, eating dirt, not needing to spend your whole weekend making OLED Steam Deck reviews. Seems like a pretty chill life to me. Which brings me to this, the all-new OLED Steam Deck. This thing has taken the internet by storm. Everybody's talking about it. But what you really want to know is it good? Is it really that much better than the original Steam Deck? If you don't have a Steam Deck yet, should you now consider getting one and getting an OLED deck? And if you do have a Steam Deck, an LCD Steam Deck, should you sell that or throw it in the garbage and go and buy this new one? And most importantly, whether you're interested in the Steam Deck or not, should you subscribe to TechDweeb? The answer to all of those is maybe. The OLED Steam Deck is the new version of the Steam Deck, and it has an updated, much nicer OLED screen. And there are lots of other changes as well, like a higher refresh rate, bigger battery, smaller CPU that runs cooler and draws less power, and a handful of other changes that make this a nice mid-gen refresh. It's not an all-new device. There are some good quality of life features, but the actual performance is more or less the same as the original deck. And the overall experience of being a Steam Deck user is more or less the same. A bunch of small changes that make a great device just that much more greater. And we're going to talk about all those changes today, and then hopefully decide if it's worth getting or upgrading, or if you're better off skipping this device update and waiting for the next big thing. Rub.
Why have you summoned me, mortal? You have already used your wish.
I just wanted to talk, I guess.
Maybe you should have used your wish to wish for a friend.
I don't need to wish for a friend. I have you, Steam Deck Genie.
That's kind of pathetic.
Yeah. My version of the Steam Deck that I'm going to be showing you today is the new limited edition OLED version. I did an unboxing and first impressions video of this thing, linked below. Check that out if you want to get a closer look at this thing. It's the same as the top-end OLED deck in every way except that it has a smoky black transparent shell, some nice orange accents on the thumbsticks and the vent grill and the screws. I think it looks amazing. I'm so happy with what they came up with on this limited edition. They made it feel special without going overboard, and overall the black with orange accents just looks about 5 to 10% more TechDweebish, so I obviously approve.
Oh, this is a really nice place you got here.
Welcome to your new home, buddy.
What? You mean I can stay?
Yeah man, friends help each other out.
I'm not your friend.
Shh. Before we get into the differences, let's go over what's actually available right now if you want to buy a deck. Now they've discontinued the 64GB and 512GB models. Now the newest low-end model of the deck is the 256GB Glossy LCD model. The new mid-tier model is a 512 Glossy OLED model, and the top-end model is a 1TB anti-glare OLED model. There was also this model that I have here, the limited edition, but that's not available anymore. Feel free to tell me how jealous of me you are in the comments below. Lots of people are trying to decide which model they should get. Apart from the storage, which is expandable with microSD cards and upgradable with SSDs, the big difference between all three models is the screen, which we'll talk about in a bit. Oh, and real quick before we get into the nitty gritty, I wanted to show you the case. On my limited edition, I have a fancy deck print, but one cool thing about the case on the OLED deck is that this inside part comes out. So you can have the bigger case when you need more protection or you need to carry the charger, or you can tear out the low profile version if you need to shove this in your backpack with your tube of Pringles and your hamster.
Don't put me in with that hamster again. He taunts me.
Yeah, he'll do that. The screen is the obvious big change that is made here on the new OLED models. The old deck had a 7-inch LCD screen with a resolution of 1280 by 800, and it was a pretty darn nice screen. The OLED deck has a 7.4-inch OLED screen with the same 1280 by 800 resolution. It's only a 0.4-inch difference, and that's not massive, but it's definitely noticeable. The biggest change is that we have much smaller bezels, and it looks much sleeker.
But TechDweeb, what is an OLED screen anyways?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Let me tell you.
Did I do good?
Yeah, man. Thanks for helping me with that transition. OLED stands for something, I don't know. It's a newer type of tech for creating the pixels on the screen. With LCDs, the whole screen has to be lit, and the red, green, and blue aspects of the pixels change their opacity to let different amounts of the light through. However, that means that especially in lower light environments, that the dark areas of the screen aren't actually black. They're always going to have a slight grayish glow because of the backlight that is behind the whole screen. OLED is different because each pixel on the screen, which is comprised of a red, green, and blue organic light emitting diode, there it is self-lit. The pixels themselves are the light, which means that the black areas of the screen don't have any light source, and they don't have that grayish haze that LCDs have. And also the light areas can be brighter, which means that OLED screens have a lot more contrast, brighter, richer colors, and dark blacks. On this new screen, we have a max brightness of 600 nits or up to 1000 nits with HDR. And if you don't know what nits are, then you're a nitwit.
Good one.
Yeah. In addition to the OLED-ness of the panel, we get an upgrade in refresh rate. The LCD deck ran at 60 Hz, but the new OLED deck runs at up to 90 Hz. However, most of the stuff that you'll be running on the deck won't run at 90 Hz. The deck isn't a beast, and in most modern games you'll be running at less than 60 FPS, and probably more like 30 or 40 for the demanding games. But that doesn't mean that the 90 Hz screen is wasted, because we now have more options for locking the refresh rate, and most importantly, we can now get smooth frame pacing at 45 FPS, which is a perfect sweet spot for lots of games that will play well on the deck. And for those harder games, we can still get the same 30 FPS lock that we got on the 60 Hz LCD, and it'll be a smoother experience on the OLED deck.
I've always been smooth. Just ask the lady genies.
I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. They had some stories to tell.
Uh-oh.
And on the topic of the screen, one more thing we get is HDR support. HDR gives us an increased range on the lights versus the blacks, so the screen actually gets brighter with HDR, up to 1000 nits. It's very nice when it works in the games that support it. You get this massive range of contrast, and in some games it's kind of incredible to see. However, HDR is messy. Support is all over the place. Some games use it well, some games it's barely noticeable. It's nice when it works, but it's not a must-have feature, at least until we get universal HDR support, which is something us HDR enthusiasts have been asking for, and we still don't have it yet. Hopefully the existence of HDR on the deck is what the industry needs as a universal HDR standard. We shall see. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about with this screen is the glossy versus the anti-glare etched glass thing. The 512 version of the deck has the glossy screen. The 1TB has the etched glass. I don't have both to show you, but I did get a chance to play with the glossy version of the original deck a while ago. My takeaway was that to the naked eye, in a dim environment, the glossy version is slightly sharper. The etched glass version is slightly softer. However, if you're not in a dim environment, if there's anything going on behind you while you're gaming, like a light on in the background or in a bright room if it's during the day, the etched glass is a bit more enjoyable because the anti-glare nature of that panel softens the reflections. But the biggest difference that I didn't really even think about until I started using it is that the etched glass doesn't show fingerprints. The Glossy is a fingerprint magnet. That's the biggest benefit to the etched glass, in my opinion. But ultimately, the difference is very small in reality. It's a bit of a trade-off either way, but my preference is for the etched glass. Although I know that some people prefer the Glossy, so take my opinion with a grain of pepper. Gesundheit. When it comes to the heat and the battery, this is one area that I was excited to get the OLED deck because a big issue with me on the original deck is the noise of the fan and the battery life. If you didn't know, because I didn't tell you yet, there are 2 upgrades that we get on the OLED deck that help in this regard. The first is a bigger battery. We go from a 40 watt-hour battery on the original deck to a 50 watt-hour battery on the OLED deck. This is a giant battery, and the deck was already the most efficient handheld gaming PC out there, especially at lower wattages. So an even bigger battery is nice. But another upgrade that we get is the processor that's being used in the deck. It's the same actual processor, it has the same core count and the same clock speed, but the physical design of the APU has shrunk, which sort of means that it's less power that the CPU needs to run tasks. This, coupled with a bigger battery, means that the OLED deck gets about 50% more battery life than the original deck. We're talking 3 to 12 hours of battery. Game time. That's insane for a handheld gaming PC. But the biggest change here for me comes down to the way that I use the deck. When I game on the deck, I play the balancing act of trying to lower the game settings to as low as I can without making the game look like total garbage. Lock the FPS as low as I'm comfortable, and lower the wattage so that I can exactly meet the requirements of my settings without going over. All with the goal of keeping the deck running cool because I hate hearing the fan. On the original deck, I find that 7 watts is the sweet spot for me. That's what I try to hit. Some games I can get down to 5 watts, which is whisper quiet. Some games need more than 7 watts, and when it's at like 8+ watts, the fan gets pretty audible. So I try to keep it under that. However, on the OLED deck, I can easily game at anything less than 10 watts without the fan kicking up. The device just runs a few degrees cooler, and because of that, I hear the fan a lot less. And when I do hear the fan, it's a much nicer fan noise because the OLED deck just has a better fan. And what's crazy is that even if I'm at like 8 watts or 9 watts or even 10 watts, the OLED deck lasts longer than the LCD does at 7 watts. So for me, the way that I like to use the deck, the OLED has been a very noticeable upgrade. In my specific use case, it feels like a whole new world of deck gaming.
A whole new world.
Nope, we're not going there. Another neat little change that I didn't even think about until I got the OLED deck in my hands is the weight difference. On paper, the OLED deck is 30 grams lighter, but in reality, it's 30 grams lighter. But it's a difference you can feel. The OLED deck feels just that little bit more comfortable in your hands because of it. Kinda crazy that they improved the screen and gave us a bigger battery and somehow made it weigh less.
Oh, thanks for noticing. I've been trying to watch my weight.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. And there is a bunch of other changes on the OLED deck that I don't have time to really talk much about, so I'll just show them on the screen right now so you can read them yourself.
So you're too lazy to read them, is what you're saying?
No, I'm not too lazy. I would totally read them. I don't want the video to be too long.
Right.
What?
No, nothing.
Oh, come on. However, to play devil's avocado, the existence of an OLED deck doesn't make the LCD deck worthless. Don't let FOMO win. The changes are great, but honestly, you're not really missing much if you go for the LCD deck. All the best parts of the deck exist across all the models, OLED or not. The LCD deck was well loved until this OLED version came along, and while the OLED is a big improvement in some ways and a small improvement in others, that doesn't mean that the LCD deck is a terrible experience or anything. The LCD deck is still freaking awesome. And if you're not comparing them side by side, you'd probably never even know that the LCD isn't the best of the best because it really is an awesome device. The screen is a really nice LCD screen, the battery is still great, and all the little changes don't make or break anything. If you have an LCD deck, I say just stick with that. It's worth going for the OLED if you're buying a deck for the first time, if you don't mind spending extra for the mid-tier or high-end models of the deck, but not as an upgrade, unless you are a deck lover. If you play your deck every day, if it's your favorite toy, if you just love the deck and cuddle with it in bed at night and have a Steam Deck tattoo on your butt cheek, then yeah, upgrade to the OLED version and get an OLED deck tattoo on your other butt cheek. I am a deck lover. I play my deck every day, I snuggle with it at night, and my new OLED deck butt tattoo is breathtaking. And you can see it on my OnlyFans, link below. So I'm glad that I have the OLED, and I'm just smitten with the special edition. Orange and black. It's like they made it just for me. So I'm going to give the OLED Steam Deck a score of 13 decks out of 11. And I'll throw in a deck. A whole deck. A nice one. A deck for the deck.
You know, this really is a nice deck.
And that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching and stuff. Thanks especially to my generous supporters on Patreon who help make what I do better. If you'd like to join my Patreon and support the things that I do, there's a link in the description below. If you like this video, then check out this video, my original review of the Steam Deck. That was a fun one. There's a link on the screen right now and down there in the description below. And you can go watch it now because we're done. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.